solidarity among the American people. All during the years from 2008 through 2010, Tea Party members were maligned, ridiculed, presented as crazies and nut jobs by the mainstream media. The elections of 2010 were a turning point for the media when the House of Representatives' majority of Democrats were overturned by newly elected Tea Party candidates. The solidarity of the American people uniting with the Tea Parties played an important role in the 2010 elections. The result was a Republican majority and the House of Representatives from Tea Party-approved candidates. The mainstream media and their spokespersons have not ceased to undermine, denigrate, and even discuss the Tea Party as unpatriotic. When Glenn Beck had his huge gathering of Americans in Washington on the Mall, the radicalized American press and mainstream media made false accusations and lied outrageously about the American patriots that attended that gathering. The mainstream media found the American people can join in solidarity and raise their votes and their voices promoting Tea Party candidates. The 2010 elections brought a temporary setback to the radicalized agenda of the progressive movement within the so-called Democrat and Republican parties. So what has happened to all the attacks and lies about the Tea Parties? We aren't hearing anything in the mainstream media any longer. The radicals and extremists have realized that any publicity they give the Tea Parties works cross-purpose to their radical goals. They now realize they cannot give place to the Tea Parties. The radicals and mainstream media have learned that any publicity, whether good or bad, works in favor of the Tea Parties. The American people are too smart, and they are not being fooled by the radicalized media. The American people see their neighbors and friends carrying their homemade signs in peaceful demonstration, and they know the Tea Parties are what America needs. The mainstream media has completely backed away from discussions on television and the press that is associated with the Tea Parties as a result. They learned a very hard lesson and do not intend to repeat it. The mainstream media, allied with radicals and extremists, want to go forward with their agenda, which is opposed to the American way of life, the Constitution, and individual freedom. The result of the elections in 2010 of Tea Party representatives has made a huge impact on the Republican majority in the House of Representatives. So much so that the Obama administration's agenda to continue to undermine and destroy America through congressional legislation was stopped dead in its tracks. Americans, you must join with Tea Parties and promote them. If Obama gets a majority in the House in the next election, he will resume his cram down of unprecedented legislation with a majority in the House and Senate. Remember, without a majority in the House and Senate, the Obama administration cannot cram through legislation that is constitutional and legal. They can't completely evade the Constitution. Yes, they are eroding it through executive orders, but those orders can be rescinded by our next president. Some of those orders can also be required to pass through federal court approval as well. We cannot allow the Obama administration to get a majority in the House or Senate. It is critical. We must do all we can to prevent the radicals from creating terrible laws that are intended to destroy and undermine American sovereignty, the Constitution, and American freedom. It is important for Americans to join with advocacy groups such as Tea Parties that want to end the wars, embrace and defend our Constitution, our belief in God, and small government. It will be tough to achieve these ends, but it must be done and can be done with the strength and solidarity of involved and outspoken Americans. Young people, it is extremely important you become involved. The government is now planning to order women into frontline combat positions because they cannot continue to wage their wars without more men to fight them. It's a huge lie. It isn't about women's rights. It's about having enough warm bodies to die and fight voluntarily. Don't be fooled by their propaganda and lies. Currently, large numbers of American soldiers have fought in 4 and 5 war tours, which has taken a huge toll on the morale of our young men and women fighting these wars. The government has already talked about reinstituting the draft because they cannot continue to wage their illegal wars by continuing to deploy our soldiers unceasingly into wars. It's extremely important, young people, get involved in the political process or you will continue to be disenfranchised as now and end up on those battlefields where no win is the scenario. Americans, we must get involved with email campaigns, produce patriotic websites, post videos impressing the importance of American solidarity against the tyranny we are facing. We must have meetups and open discussion to counter the misinformation and poisonous propaganda being piped into our homes over television. Young people, get involved. This is your country as much as mine. My generation has fought off these radicals and extremists since the Vietnam War. Our Constitution must be obeyed and preserved. We don't want more undeclared wars or a despotic government to reinstitute the draft of our young people to fight those heinous wars. Young people, it doesn't take that much to be involved. You will be surprised how little effort it will take to turn the tides of tyranny. Take some time to become involved. You won't have to give up much to get involved, to speak your mind. Doing nothing will lead to some harsh reality for all Americans, and we will all lose the great freedom and prosperity soon enough. We don't need a libertarian or other parties, not at this time. All these various parties do is fragment and break solidarity of the American people. Yes, we cannot be in agreement with those parties. We just have to be organized and have solidarity to defeat the radicals that are already unified and empowered by this current government administration. The most important emphasis must now be upon the solidarity of the American people standing against the tyranny we are facing. There is no way a libertarian candidate can be elected. There is no way the Republican Party as it is today cares what libertarian Americans want. There's no way any offshoot of either the Democrat or Republican Party can elect enough candidates to make any difference. Too many years and too many people have been involved with one or the other of the two-party system and think in those terms only. There's no way anyone outside of the two-party system will get elected. So what do? We get so involved as to change the Republican Party. We did it in 2010 by electing Tea Party candidates. It cannot be done with the Democratic Party. They are so heavily infiltrated by the radicals, extremists, and communist methodologists now. The mainstream media and the Republican Party are already presenting their fair-haired boy, Marco Rubio, as a favored candidate. Remember, that's exactly what the mainstream media did with Romney. The mainstream media and the press will continue to spew their poison to fragment and break apart alliances among Republicans, Libertarians, and Tea Parties. We must bring all these political factions into a solitary solidarity movement, united to win back our country. The progressives, radicals, and extremists have solidarity within the Democratic Party. They have infiltrated and taken advantage of inherent weaknesses within the Democratic Party to empower their own interests, and the mainstream media is enabling their agenda. We must do the same thing through the Republican Party. It will not be that hard to do because most Republicans are hardline Americans at the core of their beliefs. Again, we must stand with Tea Parties, keeping them pure of radicalized influences, and establish a powerful solidarity, the American people pushing for a renewed Republican Party. We must renew the spirit of America, reverence for God and the Constitution, smaller government, and individual freedom. This is imperative. We Americans must be unified to take back the Republican Party. Throw out the elitists that have made Congress their career. We must have solidarity among ourselves, or the radicals and extremists will win again. We are facing a very important election in 2014, and if we cannot gain advantage, This administration, with a majority in the House or the Senate, will force unbelievable new oppressions upon our country. In fact, if we cannot develop a solidarity among ourselves, the radicals and extremists will again take the White House and probably have majorities in one or both houses of Congress. We must stand with the Tea Parties and other advocacy groups. Yes, I have heard negative commentary about them since the beginnings of the Tea Parties. I have heard conservative radio hosts go so far as to say that Tea Parties are infiltrated by neocons or neoconservatives. Yes, there may be some infiltration by some marginally conservative Americans within the Tea Parties. Don't be discouraged by that. Get involved. Remember as well that everyone that seems to be with us may not be with us. Diversions are used to attract your attention, create doubt, and make you feel alienated from others. The radicals and extremists are masters of subversion, infiltration, and organization. Their methods are very old ones taken from communist methodology for overthrowing countries. They will join with anyone they believe will help push forward their agenda. So get involved in the Tea Parties, Republican parties, and other advocacy groups. We cannot continue to embrace various political beliefs. They keep us fragmented and they separate us. They offer little chance for success. Things will only get done for saving America with millions of voices and votes in solidarity among our people to take back and renew America. This is important to remember. It may not be possible to take back the White House in 2016. The Obama administration has expanded entitlement benefits and protection of union benefits to assure they can keep the people getting freebies voting for them. Yes, I'm serious about this. But if we must elect honest patriots and attain majorities in the House and the Senate, the radicals and extremists, allied with the propaganda of the mainstream media, must not be allowed to easily take the House of Representatives and Senate again, allowing them to pass anti-American and unconstitutional legislation upon us. History is being made and you're living through it right now. You'll know soon enough either we will see the failure or revival of America as a great nation governed by the people, for the people. Or we will see America continue to erode from being governed by the people to being controlled by the elites who will eventually throw out the Constitution and we will do their will or else. Get anyone involved you can. Be relentless. We must throw out this communist-inspired takeover of our country.